Welcome everyone to the Blue Link Enterprises YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about ZOHO Books and the sales order aspect of it and utilizing the API functionality to push and pull data into it. The information on how to do the API using Postman. I already did a YouTube video on how to do the basic registration information, and all the details you can find in the previous videos in order to learn how to create a OAuth token and connect via API. So this is the second part where you will be pushing and pulling sales order, and we're going to create a company in ZOHO, the manufacturing company. I'm going to show you real quick the basic steps on creating that company, and then I created a customer, created contacts for the customer, created items with the SKU, basic information of the item, the description, the item pricing, the unit of measurement, and then I created a sales order. I was able to pull down the sales order utilizing the API functionality in Postman, and we can visualize the JSON data, the sales order in a JSON format. We're going to be discussing the mapping strategy for the purchase order A50X12 to JSON. And then we're going to push a sample sales order, a sample purchase order into a sales order. And we're going to review the errors and what happened when we try to load with an item that doesn't exist, or incorrect shipping ID or bill to ID, and so on and so forth. Then in part two, we're going to um, do the mapping of the A50X12 to JSON and try to load it, the JSON file, either using Python or maybe AWS. We'll see what is available, what we can make happen. So without further ado, let us get started. Okay, welcome back. We're gonna continue in the process. So we're gonna show you in ZOHO how we created the company. Again, I'm not gonna go a lot in detail on the company creation, but I'm gonna show you how what I did and how to obtain certain pieces of information. Um, so here in ZOHO, I created a company called My Company 123, and important that we find the organization ID. As you can see, is right here, and you can click here to copy the organization ID. We're going to need that in order to execute the API to pull the data down. Um, so basically, it's a manufacturing company, nothing too crazy in there. In the items, I created 3 items, and notice that I included the SKU in order to have a vendor number, our own identification number. This is the item description. Uh, the purchase rate is 15 euros. And here's the description, and here's a better detailed view of it. It's nothing out of the ordinary, just created 3 random items so I can have some items built into the system. The important thing to highlight here is that I included the SKU number, and I'm going to show you how to do that because by default you will not have that information. You go to settings, and under settings you go under items, and in items yeah, field customization, and here's the SKU, and it's active. So you need to activate that in order for the SKU field to be available. And here's the item image as well. I did not activate that, um, but you can see these additional fields are available here. You can create, customize it a little bit more, but I just wanted to include the SKU number. Then I created a customer. Back to my company, close settings. And under sales, you have the customers. I created a new customer, and inside the customer, you can, here's the billing address. So that will be the bill to. And here's one shipping address, and here's another shipping address, and contact information. The thing that I couldn't do in Zoho is get their bill to ID and shipping ID. I couldn't visualize it here, and I tried to look for it. Maybe if someone knows can show me how to do that. But the way that I was able to find that out was pulling it via the API, and I'll show you how I did that as well. Once I created the items with the SKU and a sales order and a customer, then I created a sample sales order. And again, the purchase order that you receive from a buyer, it gets imported into the ERP as a sales order. It's your sales order, but it's your customer's purchase order. So I created this generic sales order that you see here, and it basically has the 3 items, and I put 10 boxes, 10 boxes, 20 boxes based on the pricing information and the total. I didn't mess around with taxes or anything like that. So uh, these customers in Europe, and in Europe you have to deal with a VAT, but I wanted to make it straightforward and simple. Um, so I didn't add any VAT requirement, although you could do that. There is fields in Zoho to do that, but I didn't want to mess around with that. So here is sales order 00001, and is purchase order um, purchase order 1234567 8, and I created this manually. So I'm gonna show you how to extract all this information in the API. Okay, so here we have, we're going to talk about now the how to create variables in Postman. It's an advanced feature. How to pull the sales order that you created manually via API, and how to read through the data in JSON. We're going to also discuss the purchase order A50X12 to JSON, how we can map that. So first of all, to cover real quick in Zoho, I'm sorry, in Postman. Um, Here I created a, a folder, or a workspace, and you can see that you can set some global variables. And this Zoho organization ID is the one that I showed you early. Let me show you again. You can pull that information from here where it says my company 123. If you copy this guy, you have the organization ID. That is essential to be able to pull the data via Zoho, via the Postman API. The token, whenever you pull a token authorization, uh, it only lasts 1 hour. So you need to refresh it every once in a while. Um, and this is the API to refresh the token. Again, all this information is on my previous video, so if you need to go through it, you can, I'll leave a description in the common area so you can see it. So we're gonna refresh the token. We get the access token. We copy it. We go to the global variables. We paste it. We save it. And now uh, we can pull information. So uh, I'm going to go ahead and via API, I'm going to pull the contacts via the organization ID. It's only one contact because I got only one company. So if I need to, if I have several ones, I can add another field here, like customer ID, and then I can just pull it. But because I only have one contact, I don't have to filter too much. So here is the contact ID for the store, and I want you to see the IDs because those are important. Here's the primary contact ID, payment terms, currency associated with that store, that customer, and obviously it's euros. Entity address ID. So this is important. The address ID for the billing, the bill to address ID, and here's one, the ship to ID, and here's the contact, one of the contact for that vendor, and here's another contact. Anyways, I'm showing you this because in Zoho, I did not see in the UI, I did not see where I can get these identifiers clearly. So I'm using the Zoho API organization or contacts to pull down the list of contact, and then I'm making a reference to the identifiers for the bill to and the ship to. Um, Here we have another function to pull the sales orders in the system. Again, if I want to, because I have several sales orders right now, I can say, give me the sales order that has sales order ID. And we see that this is 2.71 kilobytes, and it has all the sales orders in the system. But if I run this, it should now filter only the sales order as SO0001. Let me see. Yeah, it's only one. So here's the customer ID. And again, I'm doing this in order to be able to pull the data from Zoho and analyze it and be able to grab the IDs that um, that I'm going to need in order to provide it to my customer. So when they provide me a purchase order, I can tell them what IDs they gotta use for the ship to, for the bill to, for the ref IA, like internal vendor number, so on and so forth. Here's the SKU number for the item. Again, if you remember, this purchase order, this sales order had 3 different items. We do have an item ID, so you can give them the SKU or the internal, the VN. I guess you can use VN for this item, SKU and VN. And here is the third item. So this is how you can utilize the API to extract the internal numbers that exist in Zoho for the sales order. Because again, in the API and the UI, you will not be able to see, like it doesn't tell you the number for the particular customer bill to or ship to. So here we have the sample purchase order A50 that I created based on the information that I found on the API JSON data, the JSON data that I pulled via the API. And it's a simple purchase order, nothing crazy. Um, Here's my company 123 for the ISA and GS. Here's the purchase order. In this case, I use purchase order 98765-5. And then here is PO date. Here's the internal vendor number for my customer. So these will be the sender, whatever uh, uh, number they use for the ISA and the GS. But this number is the one that I show you from the API. So 52057, I'm gonna show you from the JSON. Let me pull this list of contacts. Right here it is. 52057 is for La Pen store. So we're gonna, so this is the ship day, 2024 11/30, and I'll show you where that lands. And here is contact information. I really didn't mess with that, but here's the ship to. So 52062, 52062 for La Pen store warehouse 01. So if we look at this, here it is. So I'm using the address ID and the EDI N104. And then for the build to, I'm using this ID, so 52060. And if we look, 52060 is the billing address for the build to, the address ID for the build to. Here's the item. Item 1, I'm ordering 10 cartons at 50 euros per carton. And here's the SKU, and here's the vendor number. And I put a UPC 12345 whatever as a placeholder, but these two items are correct. The CHK 110 and 52303, as you can see. So this is a very simple, straightforward mapping of a purchase order. So if we take these two are the same. I just made it more formatted for easy representation. But if we take this data and convert it to JSON, which I have it somewhere, let me find it. Okay, so here we have the JSON representation of the same purchase order. I changed the purchase order number to PO 98765-8. I put the shipping date to be 2024 11/30, and the PO date is 11/28. Here's the currency ID, the customer ID that we already discussed. The SKU I'm gonna make it CHK 100. And then the pricing information, all that is the same that I show you. I didn't change anything. And I'm gonna change this to, this is just a note. And here's the billing address ID and the shipping address ID. I didn't put any more information because it will pull the information from these things, from these IDs. So I'm gonna copy the JSON, and then I'm going to go to another list sales order, but I should have upload sales order. So all these are from I was able to find the sample code for Zoho, and somebody asked me where can they find those libraries, and I give the address, but then I realized that information was not there, so I need to find where is it that I found the Zoho Books global um, the libraries on the API information. But for now, just know that Zoho has it somewhere. I'll try to find it and put a link in the description whenever I find it. But they do have the sample libraries on how to do sales order, invoices, expenses, items, all these in contact information. I, you know, I found it and I download the whole library, and that's where I'm getting this code. So I'm going to remove this, and I'm gonna paste what I just created and gonna send it. And if it's successful, there it is. So sales order has been created. Here's the sales order ID, and it's sales order number 11. So if I pull the the UI, as you can see, the last one was number 10. So I get out, I go back in, and here's number 11. Here's the PO number, the reference number, PO 98765-8, and it's in draft status, which is perfect. So I go here. So notice, let me maximize this for you. Notice how here is the chocolate bar, 10 cases, 50, that's 500. Here's the ship to, here's the bill to, and the salesperson. I didn't really add a salesperson, but in the API, he loaded. Here's sales order number, and here's the reference number for the PO. Here's the expected ship date, 11:30, as I show you, and here's the PO date, 11:28. So all the information that was in the JSON data, now you can see it here in the Zoho UI for the sales order. Now you can mark as confirm, and it moved from draft to confirm. You can convert to a purchase order, you can convert to an invoice, and then we can extract it from JSON, from the API, using the API into JSON, and then send the invoice back to the customer when it's ready, or you can do PDF, so on and so forth. Now, the important thing to see here is that all the information loaded. I try to make it fail by uh, changing the SKU. And like if we take the SKU number and make it CHK 10,000, and we pull the API, as you can see, he still created the sales order number 12, and it didn't give us any errors, even though the SKU number is not correct. So um, Soho is very forgiving in the case of the SKU numbers being incorrect. Oh, here put the SKU blank. Obviously is incorrect, so it let it go through and it loaded. So let's see what it looks like. Here's sales order number 12. It loaded line 1. If I go to edit, see it didn't put, he says that not found, but it did load it. Let me show you one that I loaded that it was successful, that I had the right items. Let's see this. Edit. See here how it says SKU CHK110, and he loads the description and all that. So when he finds it, he puts the description that you have in the system with the SKU item, and it's all uh, successful. However, it does allow you to load it if the item is not correct, but it will not match it to this. So, it's, I know in D365 it throws an error and it doesn't seem to work. But here it allows you to load it. Now, let's change this to um, 100, but let's mess with the build to and ship to, and let's see what it does. Okay, the sales order was also created. Maintain the So we load it again. Sales order 14. I want to see the ship to. So it's not putting the SKU. It was able to pull the build to and the ship to. So maybe it's pulling it from the um, because I only have one customer and I am giving it the customer ID. So let's see what happens if I mess around with the customer ID. Okay, so it does give me an invalid customer ID. So as we can see, Zoho is very forgiving, and in terms of when you have with the ship to and build to, but you can always come and modify it as needed. If we look at the item, so here's the build to and the ship to. Even though I didn't tell it which one it was, it picked the first available for that customer. Notice that he put the item description that was on the purchase order, but because there was no SKU, it didn't pull the information for the SKU here. But the order did load it into the ERP, so you can potentially modify it once you um, get it in, and change the delivery method, change the item information, and modify it as needed, and then save it, and then you can convert it. So again, I just wanted to show you how to load it into Zoho using the API. I just took the basic. Oh, I took the basic information that it was required in order to make the sales order, and I just populated with a few of the information that I had available, and then I loaded it via the API in Postman. So the next process is going to be, we already reviewed the errors that we can possibly see and how Zoho is forgiving and possible issues. We look at that and we successfully loaded the purchase order. Okay, so what I want to show you is on the list of sales order, when I pull the sales order, that's why I created a sample sales order in Zoho before I started loading, because I wanted to see what are the items, IDs, and what is the name of the fields that are available, and what's the minimum amount of information. So pulling the sales order via the API in JSON, you get everything that is there. But if you notice, when I push the purchase order, I didn't provide nearly half of the information that was given, and I started removing some of these items, and it still loaded successfully. So again, Zoho is very forgiving. D365 and SAP are not as forgiving when you load the purchase order, but don't know if it's good or bad, but that's what it is, and it works pretty good and loads it in. I think it's good, and then your CSR can go in and adjust the sales order if they know, okay, this is what the customer meant to order. And then once it's loaded, you can always send it to the customer to verify that that's what it was. All right. So in the next video that I'll create will be utilizing some automated methods to do the transformation and to load. Probably use the AWS transfer family for the SFTP or AS2 connectivity, and also the AWS API in order to load the data directly without using Postman, or maybe I use Python. I don't know. Let me know what you want to see. And this is it for now. Thank you for joining. Like and subscribe. Thank you.
Welcome to Blue Link Enterprises. We are an IT, EDI, and ERP consulting firm with over 30 years of experience helping small and medium enterprises to automate their supply chain processes. Our channel will focus on technical videos on IT, EDI, and ERP-related topics that will guide you on how to automate your supply chain, or will provide you with visual options that we can help you implement. Let us know how we can help you. www.bluelinkenterprises.net. Let's get started.